Bum 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 bum. I think I did it wrong. I think I was off pitch. No. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. But just kidding. This is D3 Yappers, not D3 Glory Days.
All right, everybody, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of D3 Yappers. We might be D3 runners, but we're D1 Yappers at heart. I am here with my fabulous co-host, Noah Tobin.
And I am here with Faith Duncan. And we have a special guest.
Hi, guys. No, I'm just kidding.
It's Simon Hayes himself.
The man, the myth, the legend. We've talked about having him on the pod before, but here we are. And we're not necessarily doing an interview episode or anything, but he's just here to join us for some yappage. So, Noah, actually tell us about where we're at as we're recording this.
So we are currently in St. Mary's, Ohio, where I grew up. We are in not my childhood home, but my home since 2020. Me and Simon just got done running 16 miles on the Canal Trail, and Faith's been doing some studious work. So
I have a swim later today. I'm not a slacker.
yeah, we got Mexican last night after the meet, and so we're just gonna dive into some recaps of races and big moments on the team and other people in the conference who had big days.
So first off, I guess, Simon, from your perspective as an outsider, you came to watch the meet, support the homies. What were some of your highlights of the meet, key performances, key runners?
Yeah, so like you said, from my point of view, I got to tally on up to good old Ada, Ohio by myself, or I should say with my fiance, Madison. We came to watch the whole weekend, but it was great on both ends. I got to watch a lot of my teammates run some awesome races and just other people in the OAC. For me, I think my most exciting races on the men's side had to have been the men's 3K. By far was the best race in my opinion. And I also believe the men's 1K was a phenomenal finish. We had some front runners in that third and final heat that were kind of pushing the pace. And my good friend Vinny from Mount Union, he had this awesome kick that was fun to watch. On the women's side, I think obviously the women's DMR was probably my favorite distance race to watch. We had Faith yourself had this awesome anchor leg, right? Bringing us from, I think, 4th to 2nd. Mount Union's Gia was kind of able to hold you off there in the end. But other than that, those are like the three that really stick out to me the most.
I think we talked about men's 3K in there. So obviously Noah and I kind of loaded up on events. Noah was in the 5K and then came back in the DMR, which is the next event on the first day, and then had the 3K the next day. I was in the 5K and then the DMR right after that on the first day, and then also had the mile and 3K on day 2. But you mentioned the men's 3K. Super exciting. Noah, tell us how the race
So
played
exciting.
out. So excited. So excited.
Yeah, so ONU, I've never raced at their indoor facility, and it's been it was just really interesting going from the 5K and turning around and going to the DMR and then being like, all right, I have to have a big one in the 3K, and I'm not the best middle distance, lower distance guy when it comes to going below 5K. So
Don't sell yourself short, though.
it's not my strength, though, that's for sure. Like I need other people to make the race. And so even though I was the front runner coming in, I had the fastest time, seated time, like there's other guys in the race that were going to make it really hard for me. And it was honestly the closest all of the seed times were at any distance event all around. I think we had 8:27, and then we had, I think like top 10 was all under 8:40 for the most part. And so going into the race, I just wanted to just hang on and make a move and show off maybe the strength I had. And I felt like, it's kind of funny, I feel like me and Simon could like talk about this race like he was in it, which some might say somebody said he was in it.
We don't talk about that.
But it was a good race. I felt like I was about to get 7th place, and I rallied like twice, came back from the dead twice, to quote Simon. And then I made one last huge move with a lap to go, and I took the lead. And then with like 100 meters left, I got passed by Dom from John Carroll. And dude's got some wheels, and I knew it was probably not my day. But I made it one hell of an effort. So there's a lot of good things that happened that race.
Yeah, and Noah, if I can chime in here real quick too. I think you and I talked about it a little bit. The biggest word to describe that race this weekend was grit. I think you proved that you showed more grit than I've ever seen you run with in that race. And I think you and I both already talked about it was definitely one that you definitely have showed some of the most fight I've ever seen of you in your entire running career here at Wilmington College. So just for those reasons alone, coming back from the dead twice, as we've said, it was just a phenomenal race overall. And hats off to Dom DeMoro. And all those guys in that race. I mean, they made it close. It was a great race.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things was there's a lot of different faces that were like shooting up to the front and like taking chances on themselves. I'm like, that's what makes the sport great, is when it's fun to be dominant and to be like, oh yeah, like the Yaps of the world and stuff. But like at the same time, it's fun seeing the Yard Nagooses and stuff like that coming up to the front, and like, or Hob Kesslers and stuff like that. Like,
Giving themselves a chance, I should say.
Yeah, 100%.
The race dynamics, I was warming up for the women's 3K that was right after you, and I got to watch it, and the race dynamics of that event for your heat were just crazy, because you had, was it Ryan Massey?
Ryan Massey.
You, I believe, went off the front, took it out really hot, and we think
went out the first 200 in 30 seconds.
Yeah, and we think that he might have talked to his coach about that, like about strategy, like knowing like you're in the race, you had been kind of cooked with other events going in. Same with, honestly, Vincent, like had been coming off of 2 races earlier in the day, and seeing you guys as threats, possibly trying to wear you out from the beginning. But it was really interesting to watch, really exciting to watch. I think it was, I've told you this multiple times since then, it was one of my favorite races I've seen in recent history that I can remember, like from either in person, on YouTube, on Instagram. It was just so inspiring to see you just keep bouncing back after every hit, just keep fighting your way to the front every time and making such a baller move with 200 to go. It was really, really awesome.
All right, Faith, so after we've talked about Noah's race in the 3K, obviously you've already mentioned it a little bit, but you had quite the quadruple this weekend. Starting off on the 3K, how are your legs feeling after those 3 races? For your strategies in particular, what were you thinking heading into what you wanted to do for the last race of the day?
I think my body was tired and I could feel it. I had come really close to a lot of meet records, which is something I hadn't really thought about going into the meet. I generally don't think about times or look at entries much, just kind of competing. But it was really kind of frustrating because I kept running these races and hearing the announcer say, like, she's really close to meet record pace, or this might be a new meet record. But nobody would tell me what the actual time I needed to run was. And it wasn't something that I wanted to think about until I was in the race. And when you're doing that many events, you're trying to win and not necessarily hammer everything all out unless you have to. And so I was kind of thinking like, oh, like, is it worth pressing, or do I hold back a little bit more for the next event? So the 3K, I was like, all right, after missing the mile by like a half second, I was like, I'm going to get this one. Ron had just basically said, you run under 10, you get it. And I was like, okay, cool, let's run under 10 minutes. And we took it out pretty conservatively. And in my head, I think at that point, aerobically, I was feeling good, but my body was feeling it. My chest was really sore. My diaphragm was really sore just from breathing the indoor air so aggressively. My right leg's a bit beat up, foot, ankle, arch, calf, but aerobically, I was feeling good. So I just kind of took it out a little bit more conservative, got warmed up into it, and cranked down the pace as we went, and was like, I want to do what I need to do to get the record and put a good last performance out there and make it a show. And it was fun to wind it up, and ran like 9:50. So good way to cap off the weekend.
Yeah, and Faith, I think it was definitely a show. That OAC record that you took down in the 3K, that was just from 2021, so about 4 years ago. But it was Sydney Smith from Otterbein, and that was a girl that I remember watching when I was still kind of young in my collegiate career. But for me, the craziest one, I know I'm kind of leaving Noah out here, but talk about the mile, too. You ran 4:56 in that mile, just missing Emily Richards OAC record in that race from 2017. Everybody here should know that name. But talk about that race for us there.
Yeah, that race was mentally like really weird for me going in because, like Noah said earlier, we're very strength based in how we train. So going into it, I knew I was like, if I want to play to my strength, which is like the longer distances in aerobic base, I need to take it out and basically take it from the second lap. Once I get position, I just need to kind of hammer and run as even as possible. But also, there's a lot of really good half milers. Gia from Mount Union. We got Hope Murphy from Baldwin Wallace in there. A lot of girls right in that 5.0s range. So leaving it to a sit and kick, I knew wouldn't necessarily play in my favor. So I just knew it was going to be incredibly uncomfortable grinding from the front hard for that whole mile. Missed the meet record by a smidge, and I think that's why I was a little frustrated at the end, is because I didn't know I was that close to it. I was really just running the strategy that I thought would give me the best shot at winning, and I know deep down that I could have given a half second to a second more to get that record if I knew the time. And so I think that's where I'm like, oh, like I did have more to give. Like, and when people always ask like, oh, like, did you do your best after a race? And that's when where I would say like, I don't think I did. I mean, I accomplished the task getting into it, but I also knew I wanted to go for all the marbles because it's my last indoor mile of the season and really wanted to see what I could run in it. And I think I could have dug a little bit deeper towards the end for that, but it was a lot of fun. So Noah had a fun experience running the mile as well at the end of the DMR.
It was terrible.
Yeah, coming off that 5K. And the announcers at this meet did a really great job. They recognized you pretty much immediately as you were lining up for that mile leg. They're like, Noah Tobin getting that baton again, doubling back in the 5K, looking to score some more points for the Quakers. And so tell us how that was coming off the 5K.
I'll say one of the cool things about this meet and the environment is, you know, you feel kind of big. Like you feel like you matter a lot more, and like people pay attention to the stories a little more. So that was the cool thing about the announcers, kind of like paying tribute to that, because like it sucked, it was terrible, but like you don't want to focus on all those negative parts of doing that. Like I didn't really find out about I was going to be doing that triple until the week leading up to it, and so I didn't really know how to feel about it, but I was kind of like, I kept telling people when they were seeing me suit up for it, they were like, what are you doing? And I was just like, well, you know, like, who else is going to run it? I was like, nobody else is going to run the mile leg. Like I have to do it. Like, it's, and like, you know, I did what I could do, but there was only so much I could do. I tried to act like I had more gas in the tank when I went out on like, I think like a 30 or something, which was kind of dumb, but I had to fake it for myself for a little bit, but it was weird. Our 1200 leg, it was good. We fell back a little bit though before the handoff was made, and then when the handoff was made, coming around the second lap, our 400 guy took a literal, like, just fell flat on his face, slipping on a cone, which did not help us. Our usual 50 split, and then 400 got a 56, and that's not his fault. And then we hand off, and we got a consistent leg from our 800, and then we were just kind of out of it by then, and it was just trying to hold on to points at that point, and, you know, all this just tearing up my, like, blisters and stuff. So like, it was just a battle. Like, going in the next day, it was just trying to feel as normal as possible physically, while just trusting the process and my strength mentally. Mentally,
it's really hard too, like going into a DMR like that, especially as the last leg, when you see how the entire team is doing and kind of that first leg setting the tone for where you are and where you're going to get the baton from for the longest leg at the end. Like, how do you bounce back from that, from seeing like your teammate fall, and like how do you manage your emotions going into a relay that's not, you said it yourself, like about everything that could go wrong in that relay went wrong? And
well, it just sucks when, well, for starters, I didn't even see the fall. Second, I thought the handoff was botched. I didn't see anything, and so when I saw how far behind we were, I had no clue what happened. And so, like, I guess in the moment before I knew everything, like, I felt better after I knew everything. But before I got the baton, I was pissed because I was like, the relay wasn't supposed to be on me because like I wasn't gonna give a 4:18. You know what I mean? Like I could only give like a 4:30 or maybe by a miracle faster. You know what I mean? Like there's only so much I could do. I went 14:50 in the 5K before that on a very tight turn track, physically exhausting race. Pace felt fine, but it was an exhausting environment. And so to just go back out there and things not go our way, it was just kind of, it was kind of down-putting, and it was hard to be mentally strong in that. Like I was just kind of just trying to get through it.
Yeah, and Noah, for me, like it was weird looking back at it now. You can kind of tell that those two races that you had for the men's side of things, it kind of ended up being the whole story of the weekend for the men. You know, we had that high of you winning the 5K and right afterwards having, you know, a difficult go in the DMR that finished 7th. Same thing on day 2. We had lots of freshmen in different places step up big and score points when, to be honest with you, we didn't think they would have, you know, we thought they would have an outside chance to score. I know Trey on our men's side for the high jumper, he finished 6th overall, which was a great showing. Obviously, Keegan, the kid, he finished 6th in the 800 as well.
Great run.
And with those great performances, we also had some others that were just a little head scratching and not exactly what we wanted. So I guess either from you two, more towards Noah. How do you go against the weekend of trying to battle the ups with the downs, while you know you have to take care of business on your own side of things?
I think a big thing you have to do, especially when you're like one of the older guys on the team and have to be mature about it, is you got to keep reminding everybody to have a goldfish like brain. Like you got to have a memory. Like you can't let things hold you down and suffocate you. You can take 5 minutes to be pissed off and upset, and you can even come back to it later in the day. But we have to remember that there's still a task at hand and there's still a job that's not finished. And so you just got to keep pressing forward. Like no matter the outcome, like I knew like going into the DMR, I was like, I have no clue what this is going to look like. And honestly, it looked like the worst thing. Like it was on the worst side of the spectrum, like that I thought the outcome was going to be when I got the baton. And so I was like, you know, like I still have to put my whole effort on the line for these guys, because it's still like there's still respect involved with the guys that are on this team, and I love these guys, and that's why going into the 3K, I'm like I need to do my best even when I was falling back. Like I was like, I need to show that to the younger guys, like we don't give up. Like I was telling Gabe Moore when we were warming up for the 3K, I think it was when we went up to 3K, I was like, or no, it was the 5, because he had a chance to score in it, and it'd be huge for him to score. And he ended up scoring, and I was throwing back to when we had shirts that said no quit on it, and you actually, Simon, were wearing one yesterday. And it was just our mantra of just like, we don't know the word quit. Like there's no quit in our vocabulary. And I was telling him that, and he was like, what's not in our vocabulary? And I was like, exactly. I was like, we're not, no matter what it looks like, we're going to finish this race, and we're going to finish it hard, and we're going to put our effort out there, no matter what that looks like.
I 100% agree with what you said, especially early on. Like when you're doing as many events as we were and as many laps on that indoor track, you really have to compartmentalize each race and not think about the next one. And it's very different like when we go to Grand Valley for a 5K or a 5K and a DMR, like on separate days, like, or you're just going to one meet and you're going to race one event, and there's an objective for that one event that's either like you're going to get a really great workout out of it, or you're trying to run a certain time. And conference, when it's all about team points, it gives it a really fun electric feel because the whole team's cheering for each other, but also like you have to like check each box. And just like really take it one race at a time. And it was a really fun, different challenge. For me, I was really excited just to get the meet started with that 5K on Friday, because I was like, once that 5K starts, it's basically a 24-hour game of just like, let's get the job done each time, and how can I best do that and also enjoy it. And I think as much as I was suffering in that mile leg of the women's DMR, like watching you run back and forth cheer for me after you had just given life in the DMR, like, and watching Simon just going crazy and Tony Goodrich like, you're an animal. It made it like every time I came by, I was like, I cannot quit. I just got to keep hunting as best I can. So
you literally couldn't stop. Like if you stopped, you were gonna feel like a turd.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you had so many
100%.
people, and that's how I felt in the 3,000. Like Simon was like, I literally was running all over the place. I was like, yeah, and I actually was like watching him do it while I was painfully racing.
All I will say is I think everybody who was there in the sports center at Ohio Northern had to have think that I was a crazy person with how much running I did on the infield. It was a little psychotic of me, but
You got your miles in.
I got my miles in that way.
Well, I think we haven't talked about the 5Ks yet. I watched yours right before mine. It looked really incredibly smooth, and you had a great finish stretch. It was really fun to watch. Tell us a bit about that.
I think the biggest thing was just knowing that like nothing was going to be crazy. Like it wasn't going to be this spectacular, like, OAC record. Like, cause like for starters, Alex Phillip has the record for 14:22. I'm 5 seconds off of that at my best.
And this is a 200-meter flat track we were at, by the way.
Right.
The turns were tight.
Before the race started, Ron was talking to me. He's like, hey man, like it's kind of hot in here. Like, I think we're going to open some doors. I'm gonna ask, and I was like, for people who don't know, like one of the top contenders, or the person that was seeded second in the 5 was Trey Masterson, a really good runner from ONU, and they practice in there. And I'm like, dude, no way they're gonna open up these doors. Like this plays into their favor. Like they train here, they know what it's like. But then their coach was like, yeah, we'll open up, and they opened up more doors than I thought they would. And so I was like, wow, this must actually be like very badly warm. And I'm not gonna lie, we had some people pass out, and it was a weird race. It was truly weird. We had a lot of guys that it shook up in a different way than I thought it would, and it was just really interesting. I'm not gonna lie. I knew Tony Goodrich, one of our coaches. He was on the turn coming into the home stretch, and so he was just off the back stretch, and so he was letting me know my gap, and like Ron just kept moving his hands like to make the gap bigger and bigger, and I'm like, dude, like it was so hot in there, like I felt like I had a good cadence going, I had a good stride going, I had good momentum, but I was like, dude, this is like not really easy. And I was like, I hope nobody behind me thinks that this is easy, even though like the pace wasn't extreme. Like, but
I didn't have any doubts for any second that you were going to lose that race. Every time that you came by, I was like, he's winning this race.
When I got to 5 laps to go, so 1,000 meters left, I pretty much knew like it was going to take somebody to have a huge effort to even push it. And by the time they get up to me, I knew I'd have a kick. So like I kind of felt like I had it in control by then. But man, those first 20 laps, nothing was certain. Like, it was a very interesting day, but
yeah, I think one of my favorite things about watching you run, and we saw this in the 3K too when you finished, is like you're so emotionally invested in the sport. It's so much more than just an analytical race strategy for you. Like, and you can tell it means so much to you when you finish a race. Like, you want it to be a show, and you want other people to be so excited about it. Like, you come down the home stretch and you pump up the crowd. And like when you finish the 3K, even though you were in second place and got passed after making like the ballsiest freaking move with 200 to go and saying, who wants to come with me? Like, you laughed, you smiled, you pointed at Dom Del Morio from JCU, and it was just the most genuine thing. And we talk about that all the time, about how like fatigue can like magnify your emotions, and I love that like you play into that so much because it makes it really exciting to watch. So
we also briefly just mentioned it, but we should also talk about Gabe Moore.
yes, 100%.
Yes.
15:25 on that 200-meter track. He was a little bit off his PR, but he had a 7th place finish, scoring 2 points for the Quakers. It's his first ever time scoring at a conference meet for Gabe. So that was pretty awesome to watch. He beat some big names there. And Noah and I have already been talking about it. We're looking forward to the 10K outdoors to see what that guy can do.
100%. And like, I just think he's getting into this super part of his career where he's going to be tapping into like parts that he never thought would be like achievable. Like he's already down the 15:05 in the 5K. That probably seems like absurdly. I keep asking him like, has it really set in yet? And he's like, no, not really. And I was like, yeah, when you see 15:05 by your name, and you used to be like an 18 flat guy in high school, like it's hard to see that. But like you look at that and you're just kind of like, that doesn't seem like real. Like the first time I went under 15, I was like 14:34 now. That's a pretty legit. That's like not that you're not a schmo no mo. Like it's just, and he doubled back in the 3K pretty well. Like when you're in that place of doubling and you're finally expected to be a scorer, it's hard to come back on day 2 and score, honestly. The doubling is hard. Anybody who says it's easy is lying to you. It's hard. It really is. And so even when I won the 5K the day before, I was like, man, like I still have to put like a better performance than that to win. And I don't know how, but I almost put like I would arguably say my 3K was better than my 5K, and I still got second.
Oh, your 3K was
it's
incredible
like,
to watch.
It's just like when you look at those things, and like Gabe still, he was only 7 spots out of scoring, but time wise wasn't too far out. So I mean, he still like never broke 9:20 last year, and still after running a 5K the night before, still was able to go under 9 flat on day 2, and it's like that's development. And I just think that kid's going to he's so dangerous the longer the race gets. And I think he's going to shock a lot of people. I mean, I've said it once and I'll say it again. I think Wilmington College trains for the 10K better than anybody else. Like, I just think we do.
Name drop, why don't you? I'm just kidding.
Ronald Eugene Combs.
Ronald Eugene Combs.
Eugene Webster.
What you know about that? Oh, yeah. So, like, Faith, like, tell us what you were thinking about the women's 5K. I mean, you just missed the record because you're kind of a scrub, and to just dive into that. What were you thinking the first mile, and then going into the last K? What were your thoughts?
Going into the race, I was kind of like, I really wanted to play around with tactics here, and I never really go into a race with a race plan, and like I said, I never really look at like times going in. So I just kind of wanted to pack it up, run with the ladies. Some of the ONU girls, shout out Ashley Hockstock, just really great competitors, fun to talk to. Same with Abby Schroff of John Carroll, like both just great girls that I love hanging out with before the races, and wanna like they're people that I can see myself working with in races in like the early stages in the 5K, and I just wanted to kind of see how things were going to play out. I found myself at the front pretty quickly, but we kept the pace pretty relaxed. Ashley Hockstock made a good move because I think she was trying to run a time, and I kind of caught up with her and asked, like, what do you want to split? And I always respect that she's willing to say what she wants to run, and she's going to go for it. And she said 42s, and I was like, I'll do my best to help you out. So we did a couple laps at 42s and then slowly wound it up from there. Yeah, and the race played out pretty smoothly, and then just had to switch gears for that DMR. But the last mile, it was really tough. It was tough to not get greedy because, again, we say take it one race at a time, but also, like, there is that DMR there that we were going to sell out for. And I kept hearing the announcer saying something about, like, the meet record being in striking distance. And so I'd be like, I'll press a little bit more. And I didn't know what the time was. So, I mean, I finished the race, and I think I missed it by, like, 3 seconds, which is frustrating because I'm like, I know I, like, could have gotten it. But, you know, at the end of the day, that was just 3 more seconds in the bank that we needed in that DMR.
Right.
Faith, it's kind of crazy to think about this weekend. In your 3 individual races, you broke 1 meet record. 2 of them you just missed by seconds, obviously running solo for the most part. And all 3 of those records were held by 3 different people. So that's just kind of crazy to put in perspective the kind of the weekend that you had and the ability to score as many points as you did for the team. We haven't really talked about the women's team, but they finished 5th this year indoors. I mean, how crucial is that to you after, you know, seeing some of the performances that the women have had in the last few years, just being able to be a key piece in that team being in the top half of the conference?
It's actually so cool. And before the DMR was really exciting for me because I remember when I visited Wilmington and Ron sat me down in the hallway and was talking about, like, what he saw at, like, he thought like I could do, and he's like, I think he could be like an All-American and stuff like that. And the big thing he told me is he mentioned some names on the women's team, and he said, I really think that this year, next year, we could win the conference DMR. And he's like, and we've never won a women's DMR. And like I just was so excited by that. Because in high school, I felt like our women's team got together so well. Like, we'd get on the lines for our 4x8 at state meet, and we would just sell our soul for each other. And, like, you were thinking about the next runner and thinking about the girls coming before you, and you just wanted it so badly for them. And so to go into that DMR and have Ron tell me one more time, like, hey, we've never won a women's DMR before, and knowing we were going to put it all out there, that we had Haley Cook, like, one of my close friends out there running the 1200 leg, even though she's been more of a sprinter, and Hayden, who did cross country, but now she's doing the 800. Like, shout out Chloe Lova, also got to, of course, get our 400 star out there. Like, just knowing that we were all sacrificing equally and going to be in pain and do our very best. Like, again, when I say like running that mile hurt really badly, those are all the reasons you don't want to quit. So it was really cool to partake in that.
Yeah, and if I could give you one of those back in my days kind of speeches, it was kind of cool. My actual first ever track all-conference award was the DMR when in 2020 we finished third.
Gosh, you're old.
I know, dude, 2020. I'm old.
Marietta's track? Like,
Marietta's track? Yeah, I am unk. No, just kidding. But I kind of feel the same exact way. I mean, just that bond you have between the three other runners and yourself, and something like the DMR, being close with 800 runners and 400 runners, when the three of us as, long distance people, we normally wouldn't train with those individuals. It's a special kind of race where you get to be a part of a team that normally you wouldn't really associate yourselves with each other. And just kind of going out there and doing something, I don't even know if the women's team has ever been as high as second. So, and I could be wrong there, but even after, being all conference as a team, I can assure you that memory for myself will stick in the back of my mind for years to come. And I think you kind of see that yourself, I guess.
It was a very electric feel. So I think that about covers conference. So moving forward, Noah, what's on the radar for you?
This came as a shock to a lot of people that I talked to yesterday, and that's just, I'm not running any last chance meets. This was my season, my final indoor season, and I'm ending it at conference, and I'm ready for outdoors. I'm just going to put it out there, goals qualifying the 10K. I just want to make it to the meet, and people will find out what happens at the meet when I get to the meet. So
Hardest part's getting there.
And we just got to get there, and hopefully I can get into Raleigh relays, and we can, all three of us, and watch Brady jump, and hopefully we can have a great weekend. What about you, Faith?
2 weeks from now, we got our eyes on Rochester. We'll be doing the 3K, 5K double, or I guess 5K comes first, day one, 3K day two, at Indoor Nationals. Really excited for that. Gonna use the next 2 weeks to just stack some consistent, healthy training. Keep the eyes focused on that. Stay positive. Things are just moving right along right now this indoor season. It's been fast, but yeah, make our mark on this indoor meet here at the end. Papa Hayes, oh my gosh,
Papa Hayes.
Simon Hayes will be joining us for his final season of
I was going to
eligibility
say,
as
Simon,
well.
you want to...
Dang, you guys just absolutely name dropped me out of nowhere.
Just dive in. What's up next for
Yeah.
you?
Well, I haven't really gone on social media and said this, even though I don't try to hide it, so it's not a secret. But
Well, we have 300 followers.
so you guys have
303.
303.
So, for those that don't know already, I do have one final season of outdoor eligibility, and we've known for a long time that the goal was to always come back. I have two pretty specific goals in mind. One is the 10K outdoors, and the other is team-oriented. We finished 8th as a team at Outdoor Nationals, and we're trying to get some extra key pieces to try and see how high we can finish. So yeah, just coming back for one more season, seeing how fast we can roll in the 5 and the 10. And Noah already mentioned the first race on the radar is the Raleigh Relays meet at the end of March. So I have been counting down the days to put the green back on.
Also, if anybody has any ideas about the new Vaporfly 4s and the new Streakfly 2s,
Yes, we
coming
need
out,
to know.
We need to know if they're legal and if we can use them, because Noah's about to sell his soul so he can get one before everybody. I just need to know if I can use them in the 10K. I think they're sweet, and I would love to rock a 10K in those. And two, your boy wants to save his calves.
Simon has puny calves, so
I think I'm just gonna be a badass and run barefoot. Screw spikes.
All right.
Screw super shoes.
Okay, Miss Sigma.
what the Sigma?
It's gotta be legal. Barefoot's gotta be legal. No questions asked.
But on that note, I think we pretty much covered everything. It honestly was really fun having Simon on here. We'll have to have him on here a lot more to discuss stuff. We'll probably, honestly, if Noah's bummy butt can get into Raleigh relays, we'll probably try to do a vlog with all three of us and try to get some stuff out, some good content.
Can I shout myself out?
Yeah.
Follow me on YouTube. No, I'm kidding.
No, seriously,
Like and subscribe.
I can subscribe.
We'll put the link out for Simon's YouTube out there and his new YouTube videos he's trying to see on top of. And, his YouTube videos has us in it as well, so he gives us good clout as well. So make sure you tune in into his own journey as well.
Does everybody have a Strava shout out for the week?
My Strava shout out, because I talked to his parents. I'm gonna say Vinny. Vinny, once again, if you're listening to this part, I really admire your kick at the end of the 1K. It was probably one of my favorite races to watch, other than my own teammate. So that's gonna be my Strava shout out of the week.
I'm going to roll with Ashley Hockstock of ONU. I gave her a little bit of a shout out earlier, but I always appreciate how honest she is, like with me, like last year at conference. I remember her saying like, hey, I'm trying to run this time. Like, what are you trying to do? And she never has any fear to ask, like, if I have a plan or like see if we can work together. And she just seems like somebody who really wants like each woman in the race to perform to the best of their ability, which is really cool and something that you don't see a lot in the women's field.
I had two because I'm like that and I'm different. First is Dom from John Carroll for getting me in the 3K. He made it a fun race, and honestly, their freshmen made it a fun race too. Just a great race, and he's a great guy, and that's his first individual championship. So that was cool to watch him get. You could just see how much it meant to him, and making him work for it just as hard as I was working for it is just something really cool. And my other person I wanted to shout out is Chase Jackson from Otterbein. Dude has been going to the well, and he is on the come up, and he's gonna get there. And I'm just proud of that man's fight. So love these two guys. So.
Alrighty. Stay tuned. Next week, we're going to have a fun interview episode coming at you guys again. But for now, that is it. Are there any further yaps or
any
thoughts of the week?
Simon Hayes.
I don't know. What can I say? The emotional thing that I said?
Sure.
My fiance told me that she thought I was going to cry, and because I'm an emotional person, and it almost made me cry. So that's how I'm feeling right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm just kidding.
On that note, Ron Combs always says there's over 100 different ways to skin a cat. We'll just let you sit with that.
That's a great quote.
It's a great quote.
All right. Signing off. We will catch you on the flip.